I've been part of the Occupy movement since just before Christmas. Came down because I believed it was a manifestation of our awakening consciousness and realization that we need to start to compete, to cooperate instead of compete for resources. Since I've been here, found out a lot of really, really interesting things. Last night, for instance, I was doing some research on the Great Fire of London, 1666, which, according to some, was potentially the first false flag operation carried out against the British people. If you look at what happened in the days following the Great Fire, Parliament, the day after the fire was put out, firstly I would like to talk to you about the fact that we were in the throes of a change in the way that we calculated what day it was. It was the change from the Julian calendar to the
Gregorian
calendar. And as such, you needed to add 10 days onto whatever the actual date was to come up with the correct date. It's interesting to note that the Fire of London, using that calculation, was started on September the 11th, 1666. Yeah, very interesting. When you put that into context with what's been happening recently. Following on from that, use the day that the fires were put out, or the day after the fires were put out, in the area directly behind me, which was to become the Square Mile and the Corporation of London. There was an Act of Parliament passed using French wording to mask the real meaning of what was happening. In a nutshell, people were being asked to register themselves with a birth certificate. What that was in fact doing was creating a contract between people and the state. What it allowed was for 3 copies of your birth certificate to be held by the state. One went to the records office, one went to the Bank of to the Bank of London. There was I've forgotten where the third one was held. People will need to do their own research, but the interesting thing about the copy that was held by the Bank of England is that it was then used as a bond by which they could borrow money that the people whose names were being used would never see. I believe today the current value is about £1 million, more or less. Again, people are going to have to research this. Unfortunately, guys, I only found this out and started to research it last night, so I'm a bit rusty. But the gist basically is that it was the beginning of a phase which tied us into the current system that we're dealing with now. A system which is extremely unjust and means that those at the very top have an even tighter stranglehold on the rest of us.
And isn't that, as that was going on, there was also British colonies popping up all over the world.
It was at the height of the imperialism, and it was kind of a coalescing of imperialistic values, you know. The people at the very top believe themselves to be gods, believe that they have a divine, God-given right to dictate our lives. I dispute that. What I would say to people is, please go onto the internet and Google 1666 false flag. What we're looking at behind me and the statue of the dragon are the limits of the Square Mile. It's the Corporation of London. It was what was born out of the Great Fire of London. Before the fire, what we had was a slum area, and basically when Sir Christopher Wren started his reconstruction project to build the New Jerusalem, voila, the New Jerusalem. It's controversial, the things I'm talking about, because we're talking esoteric and spiritual aspects of humanity, of what we are, what makes us human, and some people feel very uncomfortable talking about that. I would say that's because for generations we've been fed a lie. We've been told that all power is with the state and with the institutions that run the state, and as individuals we have no say in our future. I say we do. I say that the individual is extremely powerful, and that as a collective we are unstoppable.
How come David Cameron is allowing his Bonham University cocaine dealer Boris Johnson to go to the World Court of No Justice and pass judgments that the common people of Britain haven't got the right to protest? I say appeal, not appeal orange or lemon, appeal the court system, the World Courts of No Justice, and gather true justice, I say. At that, David Starville King reporting the ex-boxer that got bang, shot in the head and left for dead. I used to be a boxer, unlike Boris Johnson, who at university was a cocaine dealer. How can he be the sheriff of London? Furthermore, David Cameron knew of the corrupt sensations, vibrations that Boris Johnson was correcting in university. But they were part of the club, and they're part of the club now, and they're taking the Mickey Mouse out of the intelligence of every one of you, even you Muppet press. What don't exercise your intelligence? This doesn't breathe people what talk true facts. You want to interview people wearing pajamas. Of course, people, the average person watching the television will say, they're a bunch of idiots, but most of the people have got their heads screwed in on, and the occupation of Parliament Square, not Parliament Square, well, that's another law being broken by the government of Britain. But St. Paul's was the occupation similar to Egypt. Parliament Square, where the people practiced a peaceful protest. David Cameron, the Prime Minister of Britain, he said the people of Egypt have a right for peaceful protest. Why is Boris Johnson, who used to go university with David Cameron, and he's a conservative mobster, why is he allowing Boris Johnson to evict the peaceful protests? And are they a bunch of Occupy merchants? I know you're getting paid not to think, Chris, but think for a moment. Report on real life examination of this institutionalized racist government of Britain that is prejudiced and don't want the poor people to think, want the poor people to be muppets, puppets, non-thinkers.